Welcome to the latest episode of The Independent. I'm Pete Sampson, joined as always by my co-host Matt Fortuna. Today on the show, my colleague at The Athletic, Bruce Feldman, joins to talk a little bit about USC, the future of the series, and if the Trojans maybe turned a little bit of a corner last weekend with their home win against Michigan. And Matt, I guess it's not the last USC week for Notre Dame ever, but I think it's might be the last one as we know it, which frankly is just sad. Not to start on a bummer, but it's tough to look at the future of Notre Dame football and not feel confident that USC is going to be part of it.
It's weird. I don't know how to feel about this week. I know how I feel about the possibility of this not being an annual game, which is not good. I mean, it just makes no sense. I hope they can figure it out. I hope they can figure it out where they're both playing on each other's campuses. But you've said it. Others have said it. It's okay. USC, welcome to the Big Ten. Yeah, you're going to be traveling a lot. And by the way, thanks for killing the Pac-12. It will add an element to this weekend. No question about it. I just think most rivalries that are ending, in the finales, we saw it with Notre Dame, Michigan. It's back now, but when Texas A&M played, I think on Thanksgiving night, Justin Tucker kicks the game-winning field goal for Texas to silence the crowd. Like, there are all these special moments, I think, that end rivalries like this. And I would bet a good amount of money Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman are absolutely filing all of that away to form a boulder on their shoulder going into this game against what, to their credit, is a far, far better USC team than I ever thought they'd be so far this season.
Yeah, I thought the wheels would probably have started to come off a little bit by mid-October for USC. The Michigan performance I thought was impressive. The Illinois performance was typical. Purdue, more typical. So remains to be seen whether USC can do it away from the friendly confines of the Los Angeles Coliseum. But this weekend, I could give Marcus Freeman's pregame speech right now. Like, USC is afraid to play you. Let's show them why. And I think they will leave no doubt. Whatever movie cliche about finish him, leave no doubt. Whatever. Like, it will all happen on Saturday night. And I don't want to present that as like USC is just like a prop because like they're good. They have a lot of really good players. Like Mekhi Lemon will be a problem for Notre Dame. But I just think the atmosphere and hostility on Saturday night is going to be like probably Michigan 2014, I think, is the best example of that. It's like there have been big games like Ohio State a couple years ago, big game. Georgia, big game. But Texas was here in 2015. But not a lot of like big games mixed with like hatred. And I think that's probably what we're going to get on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, the 2014 Michigan team was not good. I mean, Brady Hoke got fired that season. Notre Dame, as we found out, wasn't exactly Brian Van Gorder wasn't the second coming of
we should have Joe Schmidt back on the show to talk about it.
But the other element, well, one, you're a lot nicer than I am as far as a pregame speech. Mine would be like, you better not freaking lose this because it'll be your last moment ever against USC, and you don't want that on your resume. The other element, like, it's pretty much a playoff elimination game for both teams.
Yes.
2 top 20 teams, which did not look like it would be the case at various points throughout this season.
Which, it is one of the sneaky parts of the series. Like, very rarely has it been a top 25 game in the last 30 years.
No, and it's a very streaky series, as a lot of these rivalries are. Like, one team dominates for a long period of time, then the other team does. We're seeing that right now with Ohio State and Michigan. I'm guilty of having not given USC nearly enough credit this season. They're playing really good football. Like, just diving into all the stats this week, I'm like, another one. Like, they're good. I also wonder if having Joe Otting now as your starting center, nothing against Joe Otting, but a backup, makes it a little tougher to run the ball up the middle, gives USC's run defense, which to its credit has been pretty darn good this year. a chance to tee off a little bit. I don't think the offensive line issues have been completely solved for Notre Dame. We've gone over this ad nauseum, particularly in the short yardage game.
If Ashton Craig was healthy, that point would still stand. I don't think.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just think it's interesting. I just keep waiting for everything I've read about this USC team, everything I know about the players and the makeup of this roster. I thought this was a 7-5, 8-4 football team all year long. And I keep waiting for that to show itself. And it did against Illinois, but to their credit, they rebounded extremely well against Michigan in a way, not just that they beat Michigan, but they beat Michigan kind of at Michigan's own game, which I did not think they could play. And so that's made me look at this game against Notre Dame in a bit of a different light. I mean, I'm still very confident in the Irish, but 2 weeks ago I was on here saying, put all your money down on them to win this game by 20 plus points. I will say I'm shocked. The look ahead line last week was 7.5. It's now 9.5. I would have thought with the way both teams played last week that line would not go in that direction, but we'll see how it plays out. I mean, there aren't too many surprises in the series. 2011 is probably the last one that comes to mind, where like Notre Dame seemed to have figured it out after an 0-2 start, and Lane Kiffin comes in there with a hamstrung roster and jumps to a 17-0 lead and trolls them all afterward. Like, obviously, different time, different place, different circumstance. That was the first night game, I think, in 20 years in Notre Dame Stadium.
It was. Yeah, but last time Notre Dame won in South Bend, or last time USC won in South Bend.
Yeah, that would be the equivalent of this, though, if USC were to pull it off, because they've done Notre Dame season, and that's got to be. I mean, if Lincoln Riley knows anything about anything with this series, like that's got to be in his mind as well. Of like, hey, not only are we playing to keep our playoff hopes alive, but Notre Dame's done if we beat them. Notre Dame's season will be done on October 18th. If they lose this game, in addition to the humiliation of losing to your rival and not getting another bite at the apple against them. So there's a lot on the line for this game in a way that for both teams that has not been the case in a long, long time.
It's almost like it's a great rivalry game and they should keep playing it, man.
But wouldn't it be better, Pete, if like it just didn't matter as much when they lose? Like why suffer the consequences and the penalty of losing a big game? Why would anyone want to do that in college football?
It's baffling to me. The only upside of the Big Ten's 36 team bracket is the fact that then USC could keep playing Notre Dame, but apparently that's what it would require. The complete destruction of the sport. It's just like, and that it's there are many things that just bother me as a college football fan about USC's position on this, but like when you win the games, it matters. When you lose the games, it also matters. And I talked to Brady Quinn about this for, story later in the week on The Athletic. And he's like, look, he went 0-4 against USC. One game was epically close. You all remember that one. The other ones were really bad. He's like, I would have played them 1,000 times for a chance to win once. Just one time. 1 out of 1,000. In here, USC has lost 6 of 7, and they're like, we got to end the series. Like, I don't know. It's sad to me that like this, it's like a participation trophy mentality from USC, frankly. And that I don't think I could be more condescending about it than that, but like that's what it feels like. USC wants a gold star or a chocolate chip cookie for trying. Whereas like what you get out of these games is a chance to define your legacy. Ask Reggie Bush or Matt Leinart or
the entire box set,
or Caleb Williams or Anthony Davis. Ask all those guys like how you defined your legacy at USC. They'll tell you like you needed Notre Dame to do it. And that's the same thing for the 2012 team or the 2018 team or Christian Gray and Xavier Watts back-to-back 100-yard pick sixes last year. Like, if they had done that against UCLA, nobody would have cared. We never would have mentioned it again. But they did it against USC. And that means I think even in a sport where most of the players couldn't tell you what happened 5 years ago, Notre Dame and USC players at least feel the history of this game. Like I talked to Drake Bowen on Tuesday night. And we can get into some of that in a minute because Chris Ash came in and we chatted with him for the first time in 2 months. But Drake Bowen was just like, yeah, it's like, when this game is played, it matters a lot. Like, he remembers his freshman year was the Caleb Williams meltdown game in South Bend, but he's like, I remember going into it that Caleb Williams torched us the year before, and like, I was in high school, but that still mattered to me. So I think that aspect of it is somehow lost on the consultant class that seems to be running the USC athletic department, but that's where we are.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Did you look at their game notes this week? They're really enjoying that Michigan win.
No, I've not.
They have a subhead that says, "Sorry, Big Noon, Dave Portnoy may call out sick this week." And
okay,
I wonder if Matt Leinart wrote that himself. And then it's just a gazillion stats and notes from beating Michigan. First AP top 15 win since the opener against LSU. First top 15 home win since 22 against number 13 Notre Dame. I don't remember Notre Dame being ranked that high in that game, but yeah, first this. Largest margin victory over ranked team since Stanford in 2019. 224 rushing yards, most Michigan has given up since 2002 against Ohio State. 489 total yards of offense, most total yards Michigan's given up this season, and most since 2022 Ohio State. So yeah, there's a lot in there. I will say that keeping it to on the field matters. Like, you probably know these numbers, Pete, but I'll repeat them here for a wider audience. They outrushed Michigan 224-109 with a walk-on freshman running back doing the bulk of the carrying.
That was wild.
Number 2 in total offense, 552.3 yards per game. Number 1 in yards per play, 8.31 yards per game. Almost a half yard better than number 2 Cincinnati, which is 7.82. 16th in rushing. Notre Dame's 50th in rushing. Like, again, like, you don't think of it in that context. You think Notre Dame's the team that's better at running the football, and we'll ultimately see that probably play out on Saturday night. But 16th in rushing, averaging 226.5 yards per game on the ground. Number 2 in passing, 325.8 yards per game through the air. A gazillion individual honors this week. King Miller, the running back I mentioned, was the Big Ten Freshman of the Week, the Burlsworth Trophy Walk-On of the Week, Paul Horning, National Player of the Week, the Sean Alexander Freshman Player of the Week. Safety Bishop Fitzgerald was the Bronco Nagurski National Defensive Player of the Week. So they're riding as high as they've been in quite some time, at least in 3 years, coming into this game. And again, I'll give them credit. I still think this is a matchup nightmare for them, both on and off the field. But they've done a good job of making everyone, I think, forcing everyone to pay attention to this game, which is not something I thought I'd be saying, especially in light of the Illinois game.
No, not at all. I thought that was kind of like the first crack, and there was no plastering it over. But they were impressive on Saturday night. I mean, I think we were able to watch a little bit of that as we were podcasting. And yeah, they kind of put it on Michigan. I think Michigan has some issues from the top through the roster, but USC hasn't been good enough to like make a mediocre team look bad or make a slightly above average team look bad. And like, they did a really nice job of that against Michigan. So that's part of it. I guess before we get into some of the news of the week, shout out to our newest sponsor, Home Run and Pizza. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's a lifesaver in our house with all the youth sports we have going on. Soccer and volleyball season is now basketball season for my 2 kids. My daughter's getting home at like 10 p.m. all of a sudden from basketball practice. So we got to have something ready to go. Home Run and Pizza to the rescue. Friend of the pod, friend of my freezer.
Yeah, Pete, at the end of a full day of college football where I forget to eat because I'm watching every game and covering them too, I can house an entire Home Run and Pizza all by myself. Grab it out of the freezer and in no time catch up on what I should have been eating during halftime. A fun fact, Home Run In is the original tavern-style pizza, the OG of cutting pizza into squares, real Chicago tavern style. Thank you to our friends at Home Run In Pizza. Jim, stats, do we want to go over that too? I mean, he's improved drastically.
Yeah, that's, Maeva was what came up last night. Drake Bowen was one of the interviews, and somebody asked him, like, how much better is he than he was last year? And Bowen didn't really give a great, like, a specific example of it, but he just said, like, you can tell he's been in the system for a year now. And I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, like, Miller Moss was starting there at the beginning of last season, right? Like, Maeva was like a mid-season replacement for Moss. And he's like, he's got all the checks now. And I think the thing that Bowen pointed out the most that actually would concern me quite a bit if I'm Notre Dame is like, he knows who his dude is. Like, we thought Mekhi Lemon was pretty good last year. I'm not saying he's Jeremiah Smith because he's not. But he's like all-American level wide receiver. And they line him up in the slot, which is the big hole in Notre Dame's defense right now. And Marcus Freeman and Chris Ash were both asked this week, like, why don't you just move Leonard Moore to the slot? Because that's basically wherever Mekhi Lemon goes, put Leonard Moore on him. They said that's under consideration. I don't think that they'll do it because it like structurally kind of pulls apart your defense a little bit. But we haven't heard. I think Brian Kelly's favorite term was game wrecker. He used that a lot. Mekhi Lemon is a game wrecker. And so that how they defend him, I think, will be fascinating on Saturday. And even if you defend him well, he can make the catch like he made against Michigan, which was like one of the great catches that I've seen this season, if not any season.
Second nationally in receiving yards per game at 113.7 yards, 2 spots ahead of Mario Craver, who Notre Dame is obviously familiar with. Again, having a healthy Leonard Moore for this game presumably will make some kind of a difference. But I mean, they're the other stat I forgot to mention. This one shocked me. Tied for 8th nationally in sacks allowed, just 4. So as much as we've talked about that offensive line and how Notre Dame, and I'm talking back in week 1, week 2. Well, Notre Dame will be able to tee off on their offensive line because they're not as good as Miami and A&M, and I don't think they are. They've absolutely exceeded expectations so far, and that's going to, I think, I don't want to say test Notre Dame's defense up front, but we'll see how much progress they actually made in a game like this one because I do think they should still have their way with them, but USC has been much better than they have reason to so far.
And I think this is like Lincoln Riley. You can whatever you want to say about him, he is a great play caller on offense. He knows how to scheme stuff up. He knows how to get people open. And I think he knows how to neutralize the pass rush by having the ball come out quickly. Like you go back to the Miami game, like Miami's offensive line was much better than USC's, but it was also made to look phenomenal by the fact that Carson Beck got the ball and he got the ball out. Like he wasn't sitting back there holding on to it like CJ Bailey was, or running around like a madman like Maddox Madsen a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, Mayava is, I think, timing throws, that out stuff, like, it's like Notre Dame likes to sit back and take shots with CJ Carr. And I'm not saying USC won't do that, but if they can't hold up against the pass rush, they'll game plan around it. And I think Lincoln Riley's very, very good at that kind of stuff. So that may leave like Boubacar Traore or Gabriel Rubio very frustrated.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of writing Maeva off after the end of last year because I thought I wasn't convinced he was an upgrade over Miller Moss. Yeah. He had some moments. He was talented. He played well at UNLV before, but USC is a bit of a different beast. If you look at it, when's the last time Lincoln Riley had a multi-year starting quarterback? Baker Mayfield when he was OC for 3 years, and Baker was a Heisman finalist, I think, all 3 years.
Caleb Williams.
But, it was at 2 different schools, and, it was...
I mean, he had him as a 3 year.
Oh, no, that's right. You're right. I'm sorry. He had 22, 23. 21, he started him halfway through the year when Spencer Rattler wasn't working out. My bad. But, a lot of his guys have been, I don't want to say plug and play because that cheapens it, but Kyler Murray was for 1 year. Jalen Hurts was for 1 year. Spencer Rattler was for half a year, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then he had Caleb, who ends up being the number 1 pick in the draft and is, whatever you want to say about him, a generational talent, I think, at the very least. And then Miller Moss, who, bless his heart, just don't think was mobile enough and good enough to ultimately run that offense. Jada Maeva, given time to grow, and we're all guilty of not being patient with college quarterbacks.
Or defense coordinators.
Yeah. That is true. Well, we'll see. I mean, one thing I can guarantee you is when we're recording at Notre Dame Stadium at midnight this weekend, all the comments will be either what you just said or I knew he wasn't good. Look what A&M, Miami, and now USC have done to us. So, jury is still out. 6 games.
Yeah, I think this is like what Chris Ash has done over the last 4 weeks has been impressive. I realize it's not USC and A&M and Miami. It's like Chris Ash was not hired to shut down NC State. he was hired to help Notre Dame's defense stay at a championship level. This is a chance to do that. Frankly, kind of like the last chance to do it this season, because the rest of the season is much more like NC States and Boise States of the world. You got to win those games too. It's not fun when you lose them. You can ask James Franklin about that. You have to win all the games, not just the big ones. But look, Chris Ash was interesting this week because he was both like reflective and not when talking about the defense. He was adamant that like nothing had changed. That the uncomfortable meeting that Marcus Freeman had brought up, he was like, I don't know about an uncomfortable meeting. I've never had an uncomfortable day here. And I'm like, okay, but maybe you did work for Urban Meyer, so it's all relative about what's
Fair.
comfortable and what's not. Or you were the head coach at Rutgers. That's uncomfortable. But he also was like, look, people have loved me, people have hated me. So I think he's the idea that like he's not aware of what was said. I think that he's not trying to put up that front either. But, he admitted like, look, I know the players a lot better. But he insisted like it was an issue with what they're calling the first month of the season, the first 2.5 weeks of the season. It was execution. I don't know if the players would all agree with that. Drake Bowen talked about how, the players are doing a better job asking questions, kind of making sure they have it all right. But I don't know, Chris Ash, this is it, man. If you have a good defensive performance on Saturday night, good hire. If you don't, it's a disaster. That's it. I mean, there's not really an in-between.
Yeah. I mean, when you lose your first 2 games, that's the bind you put yourself in. And
yeah,
I think it'll go his way, but we'll ultimately see. Before we get to Bruce Feldman, who was available because Chad Bowden wasn't, unfortunately, want to tell you all about our friends at Obvious Shirts, OBVIOUSSHIRTS.com. Friend of the pod, great pod merchandise, quarter zips, t-shirts, hoodies, crew necks, you name it. They've got some new t-shirt designs out there now. Violence, a favorite saying, Marcus Freeman's, and of course, Southern Cal is afraid to play us. Pete and I both expect to see plenty of those at Notre Dame Stadium tailgating on Saturday. Thank you to our friends at Obvious Shirts for being tremendous friends of the podcast.
And thank you to our friends at Roback. That's RHOBACK.com. 20% off all of your first order. Hoodies, like I'm wearing right now, polos, quarter zips, shorts, joggers, pretty much everything you need for an active lifestyle at Roback.com. They have officially licensed Notre Dame apparel. The game day polo, very popular around Notre Dame Stadium, but also saw a lot of game day hoodies around Notre Dame Stadium with the very nicely done shamrock with the interlocking ND in the middle of it. So go to Roback.com, RHOBACK.com, promo code IRISH for 20% off your first order.
With that, we'll welcome in Fox Sports and the Athletics, Bruce Feldman.
Pleased to be welcomed to the show, a colleague of mine at The Athletic, Bruce Feldman. Bruce, you're sort of our eyes and ears on the ground in Manhattan Beach and other places in greater Los Angeles. So I guess USC football, all better now after beating Michigan? It did feel like a little watershed would be too strong, but also like it's a win that they have not really had under Lincoln Riley in quite a while. Like, are perceptions changing at all in Los Angeles right now?
Yeah, I think there's more of a little bit of a wait and see. It wasn't a gut punch, and that's a good thing. I think people are encouraged. I think they would be more encouraged if it happened in Ann Arbor, to be honest. Not because it wasn't a good atmosphere the other night. They had a sellout. I know a lot of, when you live here, there's USC people all over the place, and they feel they were happy. They had fun the other night. But again, I think because we're not that far removed from the Illinois trip where they looked really bad. Illinois, as you guys know, is not like great. They have a good experienced quarterback, but they're not a great team. They got smashed by Indiana, and they turned around and they were the more physical team against USC. And USC, the defense started to backslide a little bit, and also they made some really bad penalties. One by the backup center ended up costing them like a 50-yard touchdown play. So I think to come off that and also to do it with, and I know we'll get into probably this a little bit more in a bit, but their running back room is so depleted. I'll be honest, I had never heard of King Miller, who's a freshman walk-on from the same area that Julian Sands from here. And he looked great. I mean, he looked like pick your Heisman winner that's not Reggie Bush. You know, he looked really, really good. He by himself ran for more yards against Michigan than any team had in like the last 9 games. So that's all good. But I think the part, to get to your question, Pete, where people are like, they're kind of gritting their teeth, is I think they're worried about this trip to South Bend, because that's more of a litmus test.
Before last week, I would have said you got Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska all in a row. You still got to go to Oregon. This could very well be a 7-5 team, despite how well they've played. At least personally, to see them outrush Michigan, I think it was 224-109, and beat Michigan the way they did was very eye-opening for me. I mean, is there something to be said for the way they won that game? And does that inspire a little more local faith in the trajectory of Lincoln Riley's program right now?
A little bit, yeah. I think people are looking for any reasons to be optimistic beyond just, hey, the 2026 recruiting class looks awesome, right? You know, that's one thing. But it's like, okay, nobody's really warmed up to Lincoln at this point. You know, if you watch that game back, it's a couple of things are good. Jaden Mayav is playing really well, the quarterback, and Mekhi Lemon, if it's not Jeremiah Smith, is probably the next best receiver in college football. He's been phenomenal. The other receiver, Jacoby Lane, who makes the highlight catches and goes off in bowl games, he had 1 touchdown catch, and it was a really cool play design. I'm sure you guys have seen it online, where it looks like it's going to be a screen pass to Lemon in the red zone instead. You know, Lane ends up getting open, and it's a cool play. And Lincoln has lots of cool plays. I would encourage anybody who coaches their kid to steal some of those plays in your youth football, because they're effective in that stuff. But it's the run game, right? And again, I don't know if it was more Michigan just wasn't ready for this or not. I suspect Notre Dame will be. I'm fascinated to see how the spread's bigger than I thought it would be, to be honest. And maybe some of that is because the last time USC went in there with a much better quarterback, and Caleb Williams, I was at that game and I was like, woo, Al Golden got the best of Lincoln Riley that day, and certainly got the best of Caleb. So I can't wait to see what USC shows up, because again, you know, they're down two really good running backs. You know, Waymon Jordan is probably out a month, we hear, and Eli Sanders probably out even longer. So does King Miller look all of a sudden like a feature back? You know, we'll see.
What do you make of Notre Dame on a national level? I mean, you're with Fox, so you're plenty of time with Brady Quinn, but also plenty of time with Urban Meyer, who, you know, Chris Ash is a devotee of him, Notre Dame's defensive coordinator. Obviously a rough start, but I feel like quietly is kind of building up to a moment like Saturday night. What's just like on a big picture level, what do you sort of make of Notre Dame and how they're viewed right now nationally?
Anybody I trust, and this includes people who have worked there, and that's where a lot of it's coming from. But, honestly, Pete, you were the first person who I think really articulated well, at least in my mind, Marcus Freeman's maturation as a head coach, from not just being, a Tressel protege to being one of the best college football coaches in the country, who is out coaching Kirby Smart, now coaching some of these guys, and now talking to guys who are on his staff who have not just a great appreciation and admiration for his connection to the players, his understanding of how college football's changed, how college coaches have, families and lives. And as one person put it, Marcus is okay with being the only one in the office. Like, a lot of times coaches sometimes feel like, if I'm in the office, you guys got to be. Yep. And that sucks for them sometimes. And I think his ability to relate to kids and to get it should not be overlooked. And what I have been really impressed by, and you mentioned Brady Quinn, Like I think Brady will be okay if somebody says to him a year from now, man, CJ Carr is even better than you were at Notre Dame.
Yes.
I think he'll lean into that. I think
I think he'd be okay with it next week.
I think he would too. And I think that is, like if you want to criticize anything is going to Miami, who's really good and is really good on the D line. If you want to criticize anything and say, okay, they had these RPOs, you got the best running back in college football. Maybe you give it to him a couple more times. But the quarterback, I think he is so advanced and so good that I think he knew kind of like, okay, I'm not going to be shy. I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to take my shots. And he looked really good by the end of that game, and as you guys know, he's looked really good, period. So that stuff I'd be excited about. I'm not thrilled that you don't have a starting center and you're putting, a backup in there. Tight ends come along. I think the receiving core is a little better than what it's been just because you have a 6'4", 220-pound freak out there who's going to have a different weapon. I know they had Bo Collins last year, but I just feel like this is because the quarterback, again, not a knock on Riley last year, but I just think you have a quarterback who is a much more skilled passer and only going to get better at that. Defensively, obviously, it hurt to lose some of the guys they lost, and you could watch an NFL game or watch the one last night and say, oh, that guy, they missed that guy because he's a terrific, rookie for the Falcons. But, Leonard Moore's playing at a high level. I think people sit there and go, you know what? This is a legit playoff team. I know they have two L's early. I'll be surprised if USC beats them. I'll be surprised if they lose in the regular season again, just because I think the quarterback's playing really good. They have two elite running backs, not just one. And I think they know their identity, right? And I think Chris Ash has, I don't want to say he's, figured everything out. Credit to Miami. They have a good offensive line. They have a very experienced quarterback, and they have, a couple of playmaking receivers who showed up, early. And I think Texas A&M we've seen has a lot of weapons too, right? So I think those are two tough games to get out of the gate. If I was a Notre Dame fan, I would be very optimistic. Can they go win the national title, whatever it is, 4 months from now? Who knows? But can they get to the playoff? Absolutely. And if they do, by whatever it is, game 13, if CJ Carr is still healthy, and the backs are still healthy and they don't have take on more water with injuries, they're a dangerous team, I really think, because you have just a couple of guys who are, that quarterback we're talking a lot about Julian Sayin, and rightly so, but I think CJ is of that caliber, certainly.
How familiar are you with CJ Carr, Bruce? You're pretty active on the Elite 11 and youth circuit when it comes to QBs. When did you first notice him? What was kind of your impressions of him as a prepster?
Yeah, I knew about him because of, his family connections, obviously who his grandfather is and whatnot. At the Elite 11 was kind of interesting in this regard. Every year I go, it's not literally in my backyard, but it's pretty close to in my backyard. And you write about these observations and everything. I remember I did one about 10 or 12, it mentioned about 10 or 12 guys. And some of those, probably half of them are guys, most people, unless you're a diehard fan of the school they might be looking at or are committed to, they were kind of 3-star guys who started to get a little bit of traction. And especially because a lot of the people there who cover it are recruiting reporters, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, this kid's better than, we have him ranked at the 49th overall quarterback, and maybe he's a lot better than that, right? So that's the bulk of the traction. That's the bulk of the coverage. And I remember a lot of people were like, did you think CJ Carr looked really bad? Because you didn't include him. And I was like, no, it's actually the opposite. But I didn't mention him just because it was I forgot who, I'm trying to remember who the quarterback was. He would be in the Raiola Sayin class, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's a rich
Carr, yeah.
Yeah. So Sayin to me was kind of the most, the way he kind of, handled himself out there was really impressive. I thought he was the most impressive guy that week. Raiola there's a lot of wow stuff to him too. And so those are like the big ticket items there. But I ended up writing another story just because like Notre Dame fans were kind of like, what's up?
I remember exchanging Slack and text messages with you about this.
Yeah, and everybody there really liked CJ and was very impressed with him. So I was like, all right, I can do that story. I can do what the coaches who are actually coaching the Elite 11, why they're such, fans of his. And so I remember doing that. Having said all that, you don't know until they really get into a college program. The Elite 11 is great for a lot of things, but it's not, there's not linemen and defensive linemen coming at them. So I think the things that have really been impressive is, I want to say he's been as advertised, but I feel like he's actually been a little better than even as advertised. And I don't know, you guys are way more closer to the day in, day out grind and the perceptions of things. But to me, he's been even better than as advertised. I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think he's absolutely been better than I expected. And I thought he'd be really good. And I have a story up on The Athletic probably as people listen to this. And I talked to Jason Garrett for it about like, okay, what's so great about, like, could you quantify or explain why Carr is so good? And he's like, as much as, the no look throw at Miami was like, okay, that's a great highlight. Garrett's point, which I think might lend itself to the Elite being overshined somewhat at the Elite 11, is like, he's just very consistent on the automatic throws at like a 99.99%. And if you can throw that 5-yard out at that rate, then everything, that's like how NFL game plans are built. Like if you could throw that, then everything else sort of builds from there. And I think that's not something at Elite 11. Like nobody is posting a highlight video of throwing a 5-yard out from the Elite 11. Everyone wants to see the 50-yard throw where you're throwing back across your body, which is a little bit more of a Rayola style throw, I guess. But yeah, I guess that, I would agree. Like Carr's been better than advertised. Kind of getting back to USC a little bit. This is a little bit in the weeds, but you're recruiting a little bit. Chad Bowden, the move from Notre Dame there, and you mentioned sort of their recruiting class a little bit. But maybe it's more a question about USC and the architecture of the foundations there. Does it feel like things are any more solid there because of recruiting picking up? Or like I was just sort of curious from a USC point of view, outside of the head coach, if things feel more stable, because it's felt very rocky,
tenuous,
quite a while there.
Absolutely, I think it does. And I think what has happened is, for a long time, I've lived out here for over 20 years. The beginning of that, and I got here right around the same time that Pete Carroll got rolling. And so Mike Garrett, former great player at USC, was the AD. And let's put his tenure as AD off to the side for a second. But, after that, and then after that includes getting pounded by the NCAA sanctions for how Mike Garrett handled, in part, the NCAA, it has been a comedy of errors in terms of who is coming in as the AD to be in charge, right? You go from Pat Hayden, obviously a really bright guy and knew college sports, but just it felt very country clubbish, and it wasn't great. It got way worse with Lynn Swann. Then you had Mike Bone, and we don't need to go too far into this, but Mike Bone had his right-hand guy, Brandon Sosna, who there was definitely a puppet master behind the scenes vibe, and it was more about the style than the substance, right? And I feel like, I'm sure there's a lot of people, I don't want to put words in Brady Quinn's mouth, but like, I think there's a lot of people who would look at, that's USC. It's more style than substance or whatever, right? And so, but it was a lot of just like amateur hour. They didn't really have, the two 80s before Bone were not really proven college administrators. They were just great players who USC fans knew of. And then they had Bone, who was just kind of, I don't know.
Cartoon character is how it's described.
Yeah. And that's and so then they hired Jen Cohn from Washington. And she actually knows what she's doing. Like, she's competent. And I think that was a first sign. Now, she didn't hire Lincoln, and there's a lot of stuff that I think there definitely could have been some friction in there of how things were set up and everything else. But when Cohen got the job, I think it was the first sign in a long time that that there were some adults in the room. And, they've had challenges with, the president of the school. Like, there's just been a lot of drama around USC for a long time. And you guys know that. And then, so when they made a big move, and they made a lot of swings to get a GM, they chased a bunch of people, and they finally ended up, Chad Bowden gets the job, and he comes from Notre Dame, and he hadn't been in that job before, as you know. He was a different role, but I think people were encouraged because all of a sudden the NIL collective piece, which had been so kind of scattershot at USC before that, got behind it, and to USC people's credit, like, even though the football program on the field wasn't going great, they were like, let's make it great. Let's make it work. And I think they mobilized. And so that part, I think, I don't know if I would say it's been A+, but it's been much better and much more unified and much more driven than it was before. Like, they gave him a lot to work with. I think he has brought in on his staff some very competent people in the personnel space. And so now they are operating like you would expect USC to operate, which wasn't the case for a long time.
Lincoln has had Sundays this year where he's had 6 former quarterbacks starting for NFL teams. Jada Maeva has been, I think, one of the more pleasant surprises so far this season based on what we saw out of him last year. What's really the key to Lincoln Riley's success with quarterbacks? I mean, for all the criticisms he's taken the last couple of years, it seems like no matter who he puts back there, he figures out how to get the most of them, both at the college level and when they move on to the NFL.
Yeah, I think Lincoln does have a good eye. Like, he learned under Mike Leach. I think he has a good eye for what it takes to be good in college football. I mean, like, some of these guys were big recruits. Obviously, Kyler Murray was. He was like an amazing high school football player in Texas. You have Jalen, who was at Alabama, and I think was different in how they, a little bit of a different style quarterback than what he had before, even though Baker could run. You look at some of the guys that some of them were no-brainers. I'm not sure some of them weren't. Maeva was a really good player, by the way, at UNLV. I mean, he was like the freshman of the year there. But I think Lincoln has a couple of things that are really good. He's a really good play designer. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, if Lincoln, like, whoever is going to, when the Olympics come to 2028 LA, heaven help the other countries if Lincoln Riley's the OC of our team. Because in that style of football, he's a problem, And
you're saying he might not be at USC in 2028?
No, I'm not saying. I'm not giving a head. But I would say this. When he was at Oklahoma, he had Bill Bedenbaugh, another old Leach guy, who was an O-line guy and a really good run game guy. And they did some really good stuff with counters. And I think Lincoln still has that in him. But I think you add that with, they've always had, like, when he was at Tech, they had Michael Crabtree. When he was at ECU, I'm trying to remember who they had. I don't know if it was Zay Jones. I'm trying to remember who the receiver was, who was really good. Right? What's that?
Hardy?
That was another one. But there was one, excuse me, there was one other guy. And then at Oklahoma, it's Hollywood Brown, it's CeeDee Lamb. They had dudes, and they've had them at USC, right? And now they have 2 of them. So I think, that's a good piece of it. I think that they've always been really explosive on offense, and I think a lot of how he has run his program in terms of how they practice has been, and almost you could say it could at times be to the detriment of how complementary football goes, but they're going to be good on offense. I mean, by all, and you still see that, right? I don't know if they're ever going to have a great defense. I think Danton Lynn's done a good job. I mean, they got better when he took over as a defensive coordinator. It's not been awesome this year. You look at the Illinois game, but they definitely looked a lot better last time out against Michigan. I'm interested to see how they handle those two running backs and CJ Carr playing the way he is on the road. I think this is such a good challenge, but I just feel like Lincoln is so creative when it comes to play design. And I think they are good at developing skill guys, really are. And certainly when he was at OU, they were really good at developing O linemen, because you see a bunch of them who are high level NFL players. But I think it was just, it's like he knows how to put people in bad situations if you're a defensive coordinator.
So this is the last thing for me, and I know you're not a scheduling guru, but like, is it hard to get your head around like this might be it for the series? I mean, I know it will get extended in some way, but like, this does feel like the ending of USC here in October, Notre Dame there on Thanksgiving weekend. Like, whatever it continues on, it will be different than it's been for the last 100 years.
Yeah, I kind of hate that it would go away, because to me it's as much, if I know Michigan's going to play Ohio State, I know Auburn's going to play Alabama, I know Army's going to play Navy, but this is of that, right? I mean, we're all old enough. I know I'm older than you and you're older than Matt, but like,
you still have your hair.
Yeah, I know. And as much as I'm clinging to it, right? It's going gray, but I still got it, but as much as like, this is, it's sad that if it would go away, right? Just because, the Rose Bowl is not quite the Rose Bowl as what it was when, we were growing up, before we started, working in college football. And I think some of those things change. You just hate that this would have to go, right? Like, find a way to keep it. And I know Notre Dame, I know why they would want to keep it. I get why USC would have second thoughts on it. It just, as a fan of college football beyond anything, it's not like I'm a diehard USC fan. I'm not a diehard Notre Dame fan, but just, to me, it's as much Army, Navy, Michigan, like, yeah, there's great, I'm sure, BYU, Utah, I know is an intense rivalry, and I'll watch. And Arizona State, Arizona, Egg Bowl, it's on, now we know it's on Thanksgiving. Those are really good rivalries, and they're really intense. There's something very different about USC, Notre Dame, and it's not just the Bush push. It's like 17,000 other things. And it's just, you can put Michigan and Alabama and Oklahoma in there, but they are the most tradition rich, like, college football lore programs. And it sucks that we won't have it regularly.
We'll get you out of here on this. I mean, Lincoln Riley will wear the black hat because he complains a lot, and people are going to blame him because he's not winning at a high level. But who is it? Jen Cohen? Is it like who's driving the bus really on this possibly not becoming a thing every year?
I don't know exactly. My gut is because I think there's some stuff that's happened in the USC athletic department under football that I think are things that Lincoln Riley would probably not want, or not have been against, but they've still happened for the better of the program, I think, in Jen Cohen's eyes. And so, having said that, my gut is, like, even if Lincoln didn't want it and Jen really did, I would think it would still be there. Just on that, I don't know that for a fact, but that's my gut instinct on it. I don't think Lincoln gets everything he wants. Even if he really wants it and he can make a case for it, I still think if Jen Cohen felt like it was in the best interest, because it's not like, if you're an AD at a school, you're still doing what's in the best interest of your university, not what you think is in the best interest of college football. You hope those things can align, but they often don't. And this is a case where I think it doesn't in their eyes.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that one. So, Bruce, we appreciate you making some time coming on the show. Should be a fun one Saturday night in South Bend. I don't know if you'll be within earshot of Brady Quinn and Matt Leinart as it's all playing out, but should be a fun one here. So we appreciate you coming on and give us some insight on USC and Notre Dame, and we'll catch up with you down the road.
Okay, thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
We appreciate Bruce Feldman for joining the show. Great stuff from him. As always, we will get to your questions here in a second. Before we do that, we'd like to thank one more partner of the show, DraftKings. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets. Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back. You think you know the game? Put your knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. With live betting, rivalry week, odds boosts, and more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to own every Saturday. You can bet on Notre Dame USC this weekend. The point spread is 9.5 in favor of the Irish. And here's something special for first timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code INDEPENDENT. That's code INDEPENDENT for new customers. Get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-97777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Questions? Someone else can talk now. Tristan Tahara, will we see a Tim Murray appearance this season? Landon Tangle will be a good guest too. Landon's good. Landon's done. I mean, talk about a way to
He's having a
rebound
good
after
year.
career-ending injury. Like, guy's killing it.
I think he would be a fun guest to have on.
Landon would be fun to have on. Good with O-line play. Tim, we'll get to Tim. He'll be around. Don't you worry. You'll get tired of Tim. Pretty.
You
soon.
make it sound like we're taking Tim for granted here, man.
I don't take Tim for granted. Look, one of us goes down, as we all know. He's the next man up.
Yes.
As I learned the hard way last year. Josh Scoresby, did you see Mel Kiper's big board from yesterday? Love is number 1 and Price number 3 among running backs. Raritan, the number 5 tight end for USC. Lemon, number 1, and Lane, number 5 wide receivers. McCree, number 3 tight end. Lots of offense talent this week. Yeah, there sure is. I'm always fascinated by big boards. We've seen
in October.
What's that?
In October, yeah. No, I'm saying like
no, but
if you want to give me a big board on like April 1st, great. October 15th.
It's fun. I mean, you see this at the Athletic. I saw it at the Athletic. And
yeah.
Like Dane Brugler. Like, I appreciate guys like Dane Brugler who put in the work and do all this stuff year round, who know what they're talking about, because I've seen people who don't know what they're talking about throw out big boards and they go viral and get a lot of subscriptions. Was it after the Texas game in 2016 when Deshaun Kaiser was the number 1 pick, Matt Miller's big board?
I don't know. Those run together because I think Corey
Robinson was the first round after the Florida State game. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he had 5 first-round picks coming from Notre Dame off the 2014 team.
So that team really underachieved, huh?
Yeah, it really did. Fortunately, Joe Schmidt was not one of them.
Let's see, you got some other one good. Sarah McGuire edited, "Hey guys, would love to hear your thoughts on the Penn State wish list of coaches that include Freeman. Who do you think realistic contenders might be? Could B. Kelly bounce?" I don't think it'll be either of those guys. I think they'll call every agent in the country to see who might be interested in hearing what they have to offer. But now look, it's October 15th. 3.5 weeks ago, did I think James Franklin would be out of a job? No. So I don't see anything with any definition or finality here, but I'd be shocked if either of those 2 names ultimately were involved. I could see Brian trying to get involved, but
yeah, I mean, well, it's as I was going through the DraftKings list of lines this weekend, I forgot that Vanderbilt is favored at home against LSU. Could LSU get on a James Franklin-esque skid here? Probably there's not enough water under the bridge for the momentum that had stalled in State College to be the same in Baton Rouge. But I'm not.
Higher expectations there. Last 3 guys won Natty.
Yeah, I mean,
in year 3 or year 4, and he hasn't even made a playoff yet, and he's in year 4.
I think Brian Kelly at Penn State wouldn't be the worst match in the world. Be a better match than where he is right now.
would have been a good match if he was there like post Notre Dame after the LSU stuff. I don't think it will.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the Kelly Franklin parallels. The difference is Franklin recruits, and his players, when he got fired, were very, very upset. I don't think anyone was shedding a tear in the Notre Dame locker room when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame.
No.
And I will add, as long as we're on the subject, and I think I texted you this, Pete, seeing what happened at Penn State makes you not like Brian Kelly, but really appreciate him leaving when he did, because very similar career paths, very similar trajectories, very similar kind of stale messages. And as we saw with Franklin this year, once that foundation cracks just a little bit, after 12 years in one place, the bottom falls out very, very quickly. Brian Kelly got ahead of it. He hired a hell of a DC in Marcus Freeman the year before, who was able to step right in, and things are relatively smooth sailing in Notre Dame right now. But you can't be in one place for 12 years anymore. That's for sure.
No, I think it worked out great for Marcus Freeman, worked out great for Brian Kelly, worked out great for Notre Dame. We'll see if it works out great for LSU. As the Penn State graduate on the show, who do you like? Is it Matt Rule? Like who do you think they were hire? Who do you want them to hire? Two different.
First off, you all should be listening to our sister podcast, The Nittany Dispatch, which is just doing a great job covering all of this. I'll quote with John.
When we used to podcast every day back in the Brian Kelly to Marcus Freeman transition. Yeah. Oh God, those are good times. Not really.
All right, so I still think that was more surprising. I didn't see that one coming.
Yes. Yeah. No. 100%.
This one happened quicker, but I knew the minute Northwestern beat them, it was over. They couldn't go forward. But both pretty crazy. I will quote what John Sauber said on the Nittany Dispatch. If you're asking me to pick a favorite, I'd say it's Matt Rule. But if you're asking me Matt Rule versus the field, I'm taking the field. I mean, shoot, the guy could lose to Minnesota Friday night. He could lose to USC in a couple of weeks. He could lose to Penn State next month. Like, I think, you're going to pay the money. And I think he's a really good football coach. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to pay the money Penn State did to make this change and get another guy, I mean, he's going to be in the running. He's from there. He went there. But let's see Nebraska win more than 7 games this year before we anoint him, a national championship coach. This is not like reporting on my end, but like I would try really hard to shake Mike Elko out of Texas A&M and come to him. He's a Jersey guy. Pat Kraft, the AD at Penn State, tried to hire him at Temple. There was some, I believe, family stuff that kept him from taking that job back when he was a DC at A&M. I'm not saying he's undefeated at A&M right now. They got a great season. He could win a national championship there. Probably not this season, but he could there eventually. I think it's a little bit easier to win at Penn State. A little less competition for all the talent around you. And, A&M might be the one fan base that's a little more unhinged and erratic than Penn State fans are. So Penn State might be like a breath of fresh air if he were to go there. Now, again, none of this is inside information, but I think you got to swing big. You got to go to a proven guy at a blue blood and try to make him say no. Maybe Kalen DeBoer, I don't think he would do it. He's not an East Coast guy. But I'm looking at like really, really good accomplished coaches who might be open to moving. And he's one that comes to mind too.
Yeah. We've been texting with Tim Murray about this actually, but and I know when Freeman popped up, I was like, God, just stop with this crap. It's not because I covered Notre Dame. It's just like, this stuff drives me crazy as like a journalist. And I'm like, well, Brian Kelly left Notre Dame and Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. So I'm like, damn it. Like, I guess, anything's possible. And those guys kind of ruined it for everybody. In the similar way that Nick Saban, like, I'm not leaving the Miami Dolphins. I'm not going to be the next head coach.
Brian Kelly, I won't leave unless they give me a fairy godmother offer 3 days before he leaves.
Right. Not a godfather offer, a fairy godmother.
Yeah, I texted Godfather, yes. And I was like, wait a minute, there's only Brian Kelly quote The Godfather. It was fairy godmother.
He could barely quote Rudy.
The other thing, like the difference between Marcus Freeman, I don't think Marcus Freeman is looking to leave. Now, could he go to the NFL one day? Sure.
Yes.
As long as they keep winning, he's going to get a lot of attention from everybody. I get it. We went through the charade with Brian Kelly every year. I was not surprised he left. I was surprised he left for LSU. I could name 40 jobs I think he would have taken before LSU, including all 32 NFL teams. So that was the surprising part, especially. And look, I was talking to an AD, earlier this week about just the coaching carousel, yada yada yada, and he said, Matt, you watch maybe this year, maybe next year, you're going to see a head coach, leave for another program in the middle of the season because the timeline and everything's just so crazy. And I said, wouldn't that affect the championship race? And I reminded myself, Brian Kelly technically left Notre Dame when they were still in the championship race in 2021. So we probably will see that on like November 1st.
Yeah, because it's I don't think Brian Kelly would have stayed to be the 5 seed, I guess. I don't know. I think he was just.
I mean, they needed one more result to go their way that Saturday to get in the playoff.
Yeah, because that was like, was it Oklahoma State and Baylor? I can't remember what the Big 12 game was. Like the Big 12 game went the way that they needed to go.
They needed Alabama to lose to Georgia because Alabama, I think, would have been out, or Cincinnati to lose.
Yeah, and those things didn't happen.
D-Zog 49. I think the element of the rivalry possibly ending on SE's terms adds some juice to give the Irish. Completely agree. I'm not around USC's program nearly as much as I am Notre Dame's. But does Lincoln Riley strike you as a guy who's gonna Marcus Freeman has gotten his team up for big games? He knows how to approach. He's like Dan Lanning, right? Like he knows, if there's more fuel we can add to this fire, we're going to use it. I'm not saying Lincoln Riley doesn't do that, but do you think he's going to be rah-rah with USC about let's beat these guys one last time?
Lincoln Riley?
Right. I don't think he will. That's why I think the edge is on Notre Dame from a, mental standpoint.
Yeah. I'm just sort of looking at the alt lines on DraftKings. What number would you, if you were going to bet it on an alt line, how high would you go before you'd be like, it's too high?
Depends on the juice I'm getting, but I mean, what was the final? It was a 48-21 in 23?
48-21. It was 48-20.
48-20. With I don't know if it was a worse Notre Dame team than the one that's taking the field this week. I don't know if I'd say that was a worse USC team. They were 6-0, although they ended up finishing 8-5. But as good as may have been, is a better quarterback. I don't know. I mean,
I feel, what about 19.5 plus 235?
Before last week, I would have jumped all over that.
Okay.
After the way USC beat Michigan, I'm a little hesitant. But I think 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
The back door is always open.
I could see 20 on this. And you mentioned the bet. I actually think Notre Dame will run it up.
I think so too, but
if they can
have the ball at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Notre Dame's defense is as good as they've been the last 4 weeks is, good enough to just completely suck the life out of a USC team that's airing the ball out. And
yeah, that may be true. I
don't think they're good enough to not have at least one mental lapse against this offense.
Yeah, I agree. And that will go for a touchdown. But also
USC is going to score points. Notre Dame's going to score a lot of
pass points. They're ranked 100th nationally in pass efficiency defense.
Yeah. Michigan State looked pretty good against them, and they're not a very good football team.
I think CJ Carr is going to throw for 350. And the only way he wouldn't is if Jeremiah Love ran for 125 and Jadarian Price ran for 100, which is possible.
Yes. Sarah McGuire added, "This is USC Super Bowl. We have to be prepared for their absolute best." Yeah,
it's Notre Dame Super Bowl.
It's Notre Dame Super Bowl. And the other part too, let's say Notre Dame wins it 48-20 or something similar to last year. You know what Lincoln Riley's going to do after? It doesn't affect our standing in the Big Ten race. That's what he's going to say. And that's what he has to say. But you can't.
He's just going to move those goalposts, man. Just keep on moving them.
It can't be you. He's been consistent with this. I just saying it can't be USC Super Bowl because it just.
Well, it'll only be. He'll say it's their Super Bowl if they win.
I don't think he will.
No, he actually would not say that, but it would be treated.
Lane Kiffin would say, "Well, yeah." Lane, remember Lane when they did win?
Yeah, I think he did say it was their Super Bowl. Yeah, no, I think that it's. To be fair, this is a much bigger game for Notre Dame than is USC.
Yes. It's an elimination game, full stop, for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's probably an elimination game for USC, but there's crazy things that could happen. Dan Kelly 120. Guys, we need some variety in start times of the midweek live shows. I have class on Wednesdays at this time. Let's mix it up. You're here. You're here. What's more important, your students or us?
Dan, do you have class at 12:30 a.m. on Sunday? Probably not. You can be part of that live show.
You might have a few drinks depending on how the game goes.
Should be some good questions.
Oh, Brian Carty. Happy Patrell Day. That's right. 30, how many years ago was it? 37 years ago today?
Yeah.
Catholics versus convicts.
That was a good time. Rivalries. Why keep playing them?
That's right. They did get Miami this year. And they got them next year, right? Or in 2 years. They get them again very soon.
Yeah, because this is kind of a sliding, like Miami was supposed to come to Notre Dame last year.
That's right. Because they went forever without playing.
Yeah. So you imagine, I would have loved to have seen Cam Ward in Notre Dame Stadium against Xavier Watson company. Like, that would have been a fun game.
Cam Ward needs another new coach. How many straight coaches is that? Adam Schefter tweeted it. 4 straight number 1 picks have had their coaches fired midseason or something like that.
Yikes.
Wonderful.
Hopefully CJ.
Oh, wow.
For the same fate.
It's all anniversaries. Dan Kelly, again, you're not teaching. Speaking of that game that Brady Quinn almost won, today is a 20-year anniversary of that game. I'm trying to think what else cool things have in October.
Great. It remained, I just, at this point, I think it is written in stone that will be the best game that I ever cover.
The Bush?
Yeah.
I think it's the best game anyone who covered it ever covered.
Just not, there's just untoppable.
There's a great, if you go on YouTube and watch the post-game NBC interviews, you're in the background with a semi-full head of hair.
Was it like me, Lewis Johnson, and Pete Carroll?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was back. You could walk out on the field. World didn't come to an end.
Juan Jose Rodriguez, what's up, buddy? Pete, most surprising piece you learned about CJ as you interviewed for your story from a film perspective. Have you seen him lock onto his first reads too long and or improve throughout the season?
I actually don't think he locks onto his first reads too often. I mean, if the first read's open, he's going to go with it. But I think we've seen him look enough safeties off. The Will Pauling fade against Boise State was an example of that. I think he does a really good job of that. Honestly, it was like I had a really good interview with Jason Garrett for it, and I think that Notre Dame fans are a little. I sense in the comments that people are warming to Garrett a little bit, and I will say, like, when you talk to him, where there's not like a time limit on how much you can say because there's another play coming up, like, and you can get into stories. It's pretty insightful. I thought it was interesting when Garrett talked about, I don't know if I put this in the story or not. Like, I was like, well, how would you defend him? Like, what's the plan here? And he's like, I would do what NC State did. I would load up against the run and make him throw it as much as possible. And he's like, I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but it's like if Love and Price get off, it's over. You're not surviving that poison if that's what you pick. Maybe you can survive it. With Carr throwing the ball 40 times. So he's like, I would play a lot of deep coverage. I would take away deep shots. And then I'd make Notre Dame beat me in the red zone, which, to be fair, Notre Dame really does not done a great job of so far. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, Garrett was great for it. And as I wrote in the story, he was like, look, I'm not comparing him to Troy Aikman, but there are some things that Troy did that CJ does. I'm not comparing him to Dak Prescott, but there are some similarities to how players want to play for CJ the way they want to play for Dak. So, I think Jason Garrett, if you can get him going on like some NFL comparisons and, look into his history a little bit, you get some interesting anecdotes. So it was a fun resource for that story.
Jackson Hignite. I usually feel much better about our chances than y'all, so your blanket confidence for Saturday is kind of freaking me out. Picked them to win every game this year.
Jackson, you are not the first person to relay that sentiment to me in the last couple of weeks.
About USC.
A lot of people are just like, where are you getting off with this? I'm like, I don't know. Just got a vibe about it.
But the USC stuff, you mean? Or
yeah, just like that Notre Dame could win by picking Notre Dame to win by 20 is a reasonable position.
They won by what, 14 last year? And all right. Thomas Roth, are you both still super bullish on ND having a convincing win this weekend, or did USC's performance last weekend make you rethink things? Definitely made me rethink things, but I still think Notre Dame wins and covers. We'll get to the we'll get to our predictions here in a little bit, but I've moved slightly from my like blanket. Oh, it's going to be a waste of time. Notre Dame's going to destroy them to like, all right, like USC might come ready now. Let's see what they got. But I still like Notre Dame in this one.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Adam Falcone. Matt is a PSU alum. Can you explain the phenomenon of Notre Dame is overrated, but we want to hire their coach? Who's saying Notre Dame is overrated? Give me a name. Like, that's a straw man argument. They were in the national championship game last year. Archer 0-0 arrow. This feels like a shootout. USC can also run the ball and did so against Michigan. Which team could steal possession via turnover or special teams might make a difference. Again, up by 2+ scores is also big. Team that could steal possession via all that is Notre Dame because they have a habit of blocking kicks.
Yes.
Excuse me, punts in these games. They also have the much better defense. Also, and this is also where I'm like
and running fakes.
Yeah, a little confused / still like not all in on like USC being back or like a great offense is like they've got nothing left in that running back room. Like the secret of Brian Jackson and King Miller are out now. There's no way Michigan prepared for them. Jackson was on the injury report. USC literally got fined $5,000 for listing him as out, and then they dressed him in the second half because they were out of bodies. So cool story for walk. I mean, greater, big picture, great story for walk on can come out of nowhere and be the savior for USC. But I think the odds of him doing it 2 weeks in a row with everyone ready for him is not favorable.
Yeah, it is one of those things. You look at it like, imagine Notre Dame without Price and Love. Like, all right, that's like that. The offense completely falls apart at that point. And I'm not saying like Waymon Jordan. I'm blanking on the other running backs team, but like they're not Price and Love.
Yeah.
But that's got to catch up with you at some point. This week would be a good time. It would.
Yes. Eric Ward, it's supposed to rain all day. That freaking sucks. Hopefully it changes. It'd be good for Notre Dame. I mean, but stink for tailgaters, but
yeah.
USC's not going to play that style of football. Are you kidding me? That's why they don't want to win this game.
Yeah, for the last one here at this time of year, like it should be 53 degrees, no clouds.
Look at you trying to talk USC into coming back here in October.
Do it.
Have it rain, snow. Be like, that's right. Take your West Coast football and
this game deserves great weather. However, my phone says on Saturday, 55% chance of rain, high of 74, which is ridiculous. Low of 56.
Sorry, high of what? 64?
74.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm all for that as I look outside a rainy window right now. Jay Carr, you're back. So this is a reference to an earlier Pete comment about Chris Ash. Agree, Pete. Ash was brought here for 3 games, 0-3 and bad hire. I'll throw one more in there, Navy. That's the ultimate test for every first year. Not saying it's going to happen. Navy is undefeated. But I think that's the ultimate test for every first year Notre Dame defense coordinator. That's like on the job application.
It is. And I think Notre Dame has been really bad in short yardage situations, like and 1 to go. I think that they've allowed like 11 of 12 conversions when it's 3rd or 4th and 1. Navy loves 4th and 1.
They're throwing this year.
I
see them against Air Force?
Yeah. I mean, you see the way the Temple game ended?
I did not.
All right. So they gave up the what should have been the game-winning touchdown with about like a minute to go. They get to midfield. Blake Horvath has I think a 50-yard touchdown run. Then they can kick the extra point to tie it. They go for 2 instead and hit it, and they win.
Nice.
Like it says, Navy is going for it now, which we saw last year at MetLife was an epic disaster. But I don't know. Navy is. We'll get to that in a few weeks.
Another primetime game. Sticks and Stones golf. Chad Bowden's return. Does he dare show his face on the sideline? Yeah, I think he's he might be doing some recruiting, but like he's on the sideline on games, isn't he? He was in Notre Dame.
Yeah, I would think so. More interesting, does the Jumbotron find him and put him on the board?
He would love that though. Like no one.
Oh yeah.
You kidding me? Like there are people who are like enemies of the state who like don't want to be seen. That guy, I think, is begging for, Chris Ackles to say, welcome back, Chad Bowden, and just get marshmallows pelted at him or something. He would have so much fun with that.
Yeah, no, he would.
He should put on a leprechaun suit.
wonder if he still has that.
Andre King. Andre's here. Hello, you bald, handsome devils. USC week is here. Back at you, Andre. Always a pleasure to hear from you. Six and Stones Golf again with another Bowden question. I hope student body roasts the crap out of Bowden if he shows his sorry ass on the sideline. Somebody has to be making a shirt. Guys, I'm not saying one is like the other or anything's going to happen. Just remember how you felt about Chad Bowden last year versus how you do now. Whenever you say Marcus Freeman will never leave, Brian Kelly will never leave, never like.
Yeah,
we're all human. We all have a price. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying he left under the best of terms, but it does make the sport interesting when you see moves like that, like
no doubt.
The storylines. To Andre again, I would do anything to buy Matt and Pete a beer at an ND game, and Bruce should shave.
We'll let Bruce know about that.
Bruce, who's significantly older than both of us, and somehow still hanging on. Phila Fell going to the game on Saturday, but driving in from Indy on Saturday AM. What time should I arrive? And what are the first things I should do when I get on campus? I've not done the Indy to South Bend drive in at least 10 years.
Yeah, they've done it. It's a much nicer drive than it used to be. Yeah, I mean, I had some friends in town, a college friend who was actually showing his daughter Notre Dame as a prospective student. And we go back far enough that I actually gave him a ticket to the Bush Push game 20 years ago. But yeah, I told them just walk around campus. If the weather's good, the lakes, the grotto, like all that, like people are very jovial around here when things are going well. I'll be curious to see what it's like as USC fans are sort of mixing with the crowd on Saturday. It's not like anyone had a crossword to say to NC State fans last week. So that might be a little bit different. But yeah, you got the player walk is roughly 2 hours before the game, maybe a little bit before, 2.5 hours, I think. That's kind of a cool scene. I think it'll be a very cool scene on Saturday because I guess it will be sort of getting dusky by the time that happens. But yeah, as the weather's nice, hang around campus. Should be beautiful.
Just had one. Where to go? Andre King again. Cousins of Asaph Schwab, the late Notre Dame fullback, says Asaph told me after the Bush Push game he walked up to Reggie Bush and smacked him on the butt as hard as possible. My cousin had hands like a baseball mitt. He should have been the one doing the push.
Yeah.
Real Bush Push.
Yes.
I just had another good one. Where'd it go? You guys have brought it today. This is a lot more midweek live viewers than we're used to having. Apologies for having trouble keeping up. Chris Fleck thinking way too far ahead. Mickens is coaching where next season? Well, it was almost USC.
Yeah,
he was out the door, and Notre Dame finally.
Georgia Tech, I think, was involved. I think Cincinnati is good now, so that job's not opening. Although maybe it will open again.
You think he'll be a head coach next year?
I would say if Cincinnati came open, Mike Mickens would be on the list there.
He'd be on the list.
I think he would get it. I'm just saying he would be on the list. I don't know. I mean, Mickens is. If I was Mike Mickens, I'd be like, all right, so I'm going to come back to Notre Dame with Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, Don Schuler, Tay Johnson, Dallas Golden. Like my entire starting secondary is back. It's the second year in a new scheme. We should be really good again. Like it should be the year to go all the way. I don't think this offseason is the offseason you want to leave Notre Dame. Put it that way.
I would agree completely, but timing is everything. If there's the right opportunity, you got to do it.
As a head job. Like I don't think you need to go somewhere as a coordinator.
No, I mean, I think Luke Fickell might want a mulligan on his career moves.
Yeah.
Like I just think timing is everything with a lot of this. Indy Lunchbox regarding the Notre Dame USC contracts. Is Notre Dame possibly asking for a change to the rotation? I would love it if they played the last weekend every year. I mean, Notre Dame's not really asking for anything. USC is the one making most of the requests, and Notre Dame is amenable to moving it around. I don't like. We need short of like an announcement right before the game that they're playing again, kind of
which we're not going to get.
I don't think we're going to get that. Notre Dame and Michigan did that in 2019, although it was for like 2033 or something. So I think you need to treat this like the last one, because even the fact they haven't figured it out yet for next year, to me, is not encouraging.
No, and I did ask, because I have to write on this. I was told, like, they could go into February before they announce something. Like, there's not a rush to do it. And in fact, like, rushing it is
for next year
problematic, because like Notre Dame's going to have to move a game.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't have a 12th opponent, either team, and it's February, like, that's not who's left? FCS.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you would wait, but like, I think it will get played in September next year. Notre Dame will have to move a game, which means somebody else will have to move a game, which means somebody else will have to move a game. Like, it just, I think it's
September next year.
What's that?
You think it'll be in September next year?
Yeah.
In LA?
Yep.
Interesting.
That's my hunch.
We'll file that away. That would definitely be interesting. I'd take that over neutral site.
Yeah, it's like obviously you can't move Wisconsin. So then it's
moved
like
that one twice already.
I think it's Rice, Purdue, and Michigan State in some order are the September games. So like, what you're not going to go Wisconsin, USC back to back. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. I don't know how you move stuff around.
Might be facing 2 first-year head coaches.
Yeah,
actually, you'll definitely be facing a first-year head coach with Wisconsin. After all that time, we won't get the Luke Fickell, Marcus Freeman rematch. Why wouldn't? I mean, I guess the travel. I mean, they did Miami A&M this year. That's harder.
Yeah, but that's like away home. I'm saying you don't. I don't. Maybe I'm overstating how tough Wisconsin is going to be, because they seem terrible.
It's a Notre Dame home game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, great point. Yeah, that maybe you could do it. I don't know.
Actually, no, you don't do it because that game's on Sunday. So you only do that if it's week 3.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, then you're down to like Michigan State and Purdue. I guess they're going to be flexible. I don't know. I've never quite got the whole Big Ten. Like, we have to play all their non-con games in September. Like, it's fine. People like to watch big games any time of year.
They don't have their they have their opponents, but they don't have their schedule, I believe. Like, there's still stuff to be worked around. Like,
in the Big Ten, you mean?
Yeah.
Archer
00 arrow. I'm so confused why no one thinks USC can run the ball. They have the last few times we played them. It's scheme and decent O-line run blocking. Who's the new O-line coach for USC? Hansen, right?
I think so. I mean,
Henson was last year. He's the OC at Purdue now. It's Henson.
Bruce made this point that like Lincoln Riley's sort of run scheme from Oklahoma when it was Bill Bedwell, like, they're really good. I mean, they ran people off the field.
Yeah.
They're not nearly as good on the offensive line at USC as they are, but like the play calls can be the same. So yeah, it's just like, look, I get it. Notre Dame's defense is not the 85 Bears. They should still be really good, and they're playing potentially a walk-on running back. Like, come on. Like, you shouldn't get run on by that. But I realize Michigan just did.
Our old colleague, Jason Kersey, had said after Lincoln left for USC, and I never thought of it in this context because we all were blindsided by the hire and thought it was a good hire at the time. So look under the hood. He coached 5 years at Oklahoma, and they got worse every single year. And I thought, you know what? You're right. And he's been on that trajectory at USC so far. And it looks like he might be turning that around this year, but who knows? Notre Dame runs them off the field. They go to Nebraska. They're going to lose at Oregon. And then they close with UCLA, which I don't care how good or bad UCLA is. That's a rivalry game, and those two teams seem to always play each other close. So yeah, this is a really big game for USC. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole like turning it around, 2023, USC showed up to Notre Dame. They were 6-0.
Yeah, they finished 8-5,
and they got destroyed. And then it all fell apart, and they lost 5 of their last 6 games to finish 7-5. So yeah, the beating Michigan, while maybe significant, I'm with Bruce. Like, it's not a all better now type of situation. Like, I mean, it'd be like if Notre Dame had just beaten Arkansas. Like, oh, the defense is fixed. Like, no, we'd like to see a little bit more than that. And to Notre Dame's credit, we have. But USC, we've seen one good moment so far this season. It was really good, but it was one. I think the rule is probably the other 5 games.
Sticks and Stones Golf. Can't wait to hear NBC commentators go off all game about their walk-on running back, SMH. Well, there was some Jason Garrett hate in the comments. You can hold that off another couple weeks. There'll be Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge, and Catherine Tappan, old friend, right? Old Notre Dame sideline reporter,
yes,
on the call for this one. Jordan Cornette will be on the field, I think, with the pregame show as well. So the A team for NBC for this Notre Dame USC finale, which we should probably start predicting.
Yeah,
by
my
now.
goodness. It's been going on for a while. I still like Notre Dame by a lot. I'll scale back my blood everywhere prediction of like a 3-touchdown win. But I go like 42-27. I mean, CJ Carr, I think, is going to throw for a lot. I think Notre Dame's offense is going to look good. They've left points on the field the last 2 games. I don't think they'll leave them on the field on Saturday night. So yeah, 42-27. Notre Dame is comfortable at the end of the game and gets to sort of usher USC out of Notre Dame Stadium in October, at least for maybe the last time.
Will we get field storming?
Not if it's 42-27.
No? We got it last time for 48-20.
I think that
I think it's all. There's no way.
Caleb Williams,
sort of like beating the number 1 team in the country. There's no way to predict it. I think it's just like, hey, look, one guy's doing it. Let's all do it.
Yeah, that was just like I think the standards around Notre Dame are much higher now than they were then. That was still like Marcus Freeman. Like, is this going to work out? I don't know. I think we know it's going to work out. So I think that if it's 42-27, no one's storming the field. CJ Carr throws a game-winning touchdown to Jordan Faison with 5 seconds left. Maybe we get some good action down on the field at that point.
You can't storm the field if you fail to cover.
It's fair.
38-21. I backed off a little bit. I thought Notre Dame would blow them out. I think that's still possible. I do think USC is going to score points. And whether they lay down or not, they've still got Mekhi Lemon on that roster. They've still got Jaden throwing him the ball. I will say, everyone has bad games. Amaya hasn't had one yet, and I think this could be the opportunity for him to have that bad game in this environment.
Yeah.
But there's no Xavier Watts on Notre Dame who's going to come up with 3 turnovers all by himself either.
There's a Leonard Moore, though.
There is a Leonard Moore. I think Notre Dame wins. I think Notre Dame covers. I hope it's, for entertainment purposes, I hope it's, at least competitive for a half. We go into the second half not knowing what's going to happen, which, to be fair, we've done that the last couple of Notre Dame games, which both ended up being blowouts. So I'll say 38-21. I wouldn't say I'd worry, but if USC gets the ball first, goes down, has their way, and sets the tone offensively, not that Notre Dame can't do it. I still think USC is more comfortable playing track meet football than Notre Dame is, even with CJ Carr.
Yeah.
And that could get a little dicey, but I just don't think USC has the depth to keep up with these guys for 4 quarters. I think Notre Dame's a better team. I think they've got the depth edge, and I think they've got the mental edge as a team that's, out for blood and going to be playing more desperate too, because their season's on the line.
Yeah, I agree with all that. So it's going to be a fun one Saturday night. Looking forward to seeing what campus is like, what the stadium's like. I think it will be an electric environment. So it should be a lot of fun. We will be back post-game in the wee hours of the night after Notre Dame USC. So until Sunday night / Saturday night / Sunday morning, we look forward to being with you after Notre Dame USC. He's Matt. I'm Pete. Thanks for being with us on this preview episode of The Independent of Notre Dame USC.